Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Bart Hansen for Crush Live Poker, and I want to take a look at a very, very interesting thing that happened a couple of nights ago on the Hustler Casino live stream. And this involved poker vlogger Mariano, and Mariano has had quite the, say, last 12 to 18 months with the opportunity to play in this game on a regular basis, and he is really, really killing it. I'm going to throw up some of his results from recent sessions here on Hustler Casino Live. And this was a guy that really started off playing the low stakes. And I remember when he first started doing his vlogs, like 1-3 and 2-5 in some of the Indian casinos in California. He's actually a longtime Crush Live Poker subscriber as well. And he's got a really great vlog here too. But he's had the opportunity to play in many of these games. And something quite interesting happened last night. We're going to check it out.
But February 13th is Alan Keating returning to Hustler Casino Live. Phil Hellmuth will be here. Chamath will be here. And make sure you are as well. Bart Hansen flying in to commentate on that one. Should be fun.
And yes, I will be flying in to commentate on Monday. It will be February 13th. I'm a huge fan of the All In podcast. And we're going to get 3 of the 4 hosts on the show. Chamath, J. Cal, David Friedberg, and Phil Hellmuth, who says he's not going to min buy, and of course Alan Keating, Stanley Zhang too. It's going to be a great show. And then I'm supposed to play on Tuesday night, which I'm looking forward to. I've begged Feldman to get into the game. I'm probably maybe 70 or 80%. So looking forward to this trip coming out in a few days. So here, this is the ante game. So it's 5-5 and 100. Ante, big open sizing as usual is common. And I have to actually hand it to Mariano because he definitely does not play like a nit at all in these games. He's got a pretty high VPIP, and he has just been on an absolute tear at these live streams playing on Hustler Casino Live. He opens here to 200 with 8-6 of clubs. Another guy that's been on a tear, Nick Airball, calls on the button with Jack-9, and Alec Torelli, who we haven't seen in years, but all of a sudden start playing in this game. He's probably been on the show maybe 6 or 7 times, something like that. He calls as well. And we get this flop, which is 5-7-8 with a couple of hearts.
Top pair for Mariano.
200.
And a straight draw. On February 13th.
So not surprisingly, which I think is going to come into play here when we see what ends up happening on the river, because I think it's kind of important to really pause this and take a look at the flop. Mariano checks the flop here. He's got top pair and an open-ended. Now, this is a situation, especially when you were raising from under the gun, where you might check 100% of your hands. Whether that's the reality of it is another sort of discussion, but the reason why you might choose to check all of your hands here is because usually a field caller is going to have a range and a nut advantage here. So he's got a really actually good candidate to check. I mean, he can easily call across multiple streets with top pair and open-ended. It is sort of a draw-heavy board, but it gets checked over to airball. He bets 200. He's got a double gutter. Sometimes people might not see that with Jack-9 to the 6 into the 10. So he bets 200. Torelli gets out of the way, and it's a very easy check call here for Mariano.
We will also announce the winner. One lucky person is going to win that night. We're actually going to get that too. Going to win a buy-in to Max Payne.
So now the turn is a 5. Mariano checks again, and airball continues with the pressure. And I like that because I do think that Mariano might have some lightish types of check call hands, like an ace-king with the ace of hearts, ace-queen with the ace of hearts, ace-king with the king of hearts, something like that. He's not overcalling Alec. If airball had bet, Alec had called, and then Mariano had overcalled, I think the play for airball would be to check behind if it got checked to him on the turn, because if Mariano had overcalled Torelli, that would be huge strength in the sense that it really sort of, I think, lean him towards over pairs or not ace-king, not ace-queen. But heads up here, he definitely can call with a much wider range with some of these backdoors. But now that the turn doesn't improve any of those hands at all, then it's fair game for airball to bluff again. I think he went 400 into about 11, so kind of on the smaller side. I mean, obviously you do want to get some of these ace-high types of hands to fold out. But for Mariano, again, it's just a square call. I mean, we're off to the river now.
Monday, flight, hotel, and buy-in all included. Wow, airball gets there with the 9.
So now we get this 6 river, and it improves Mariano slightly in the sense that he beats an 8 that had him outkicked. Like if Airball had ace-8 suited, he actually now beats that with 8s and 6s. It's something that sometimes people miss. Of course, Airball's made it straight, and there's a one-liner out there to a 9. So Mariano's hand is kind of a square bluff catcher. Nick uses somewhat small sizing here. He bets 500 here into 1900, so he sort of bets small the entire time. When you look at this, it seems to be, I think 9 times out of 10, to be a call where you're beating another 8. The small sizing doesn't necessarily polarize Airball. Like if Airball had bet at least, say, 60, 70% plus, he starts to become somewhat polar to like at least a straight or a bluff, where he might have some missed front or heart bluffs, and then maybe some straights, and then you sort of take 8-6 and put it into a call range. Here, for the price, you would think that Mariano here is just going to call, but he actually has other ideas.
The winner of the Max Payne Monday giveaway on February 13th will play on February 27th. That night, we'll announce another winner. February 26th, we've got quite possibly the biggest meetup game in the history of meetup games here at Hustler Casino. 1 to 7 p.m. I'll be here. Make sure you are as well. Should be a fun night, fun day. Chris Washburn will be DJing.
No, it's nothing.
Wow, Mariano raised.
No, you mucked so quick. You must have misread the board.
I misread the board, yeah.
Wow, okay, that makes more sense. I was so confused.
That's a bluff for sure.
I was doing announcements there and kind of was like, wait, what happened there? So Mariano turns 8-6 into a bluff.
I thought you had
Did
a
you
full
fucking
house.
misread the board?
You sure?
No, Mariano knew he was bluffing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But he said a 9 was a straight.
I jack 9, exactly.
was a
Double
straight.
I know, but he asked.
Thank you.
Was a 9 a straight?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You
yeah.
misread the board too.
So why'd you call on the river?
I had a straight.
He called with the best hand and then he misread the
I
board.
misread. I thought he had showed me a full house.
Because and he thought,
Thanks, man.
he thought he had full house. He thought there were 6 and 8, right?
I thought 8-6 was 6s full of 8s.
Oh, yeah.
Pair was
But
hot.
that's why 8-6 is like the worst.
He gave me
hand.
back the river bet. It was nice of him. Thank you.
So what just happened here? Look at Torelli. Look at Torelli. You heard what he said, right? But let's just talk about this from a poker perspective. So Mariano made a 9x check raise here. This is like a PLO play. And what I mean by like it's a PLO play is that he's got the 8 and the 6, and he's trying to represent like he has a full house. And Airball just snap called him with a 9. Just absolutely snap called him with a 9. I think the issue here, though, for Mariano is how many full houses does he have? Now, if he actually is checking his entire range, if he's actually doing that, then he can have 8s full, then he can have 7s full, but then he can have quad 5s. But a lot of times when I play in this game, I play a little bit sort of imbalanced and bet off more good hands and don't take like a check 100 type of approach in these loose live games. So I find it a little bit hard to believe. I mean, when you take a look at the board, the most viable hands that are probably full houses is like pocket 6s and maybe 5-6 suited, which there aren't that many combos of, because everything else connects with the board as 2-pair plus for a full house. So this is a situation where if you're not getting straights to fold and Airball is either bluffing or he has it and he's not folding to a check raise, and the play is to call. Perhaps Mariano thought he might be able to get him off of a 4. That's the poker part anyways. But what ended up happening here was that Airball called with his 9, and then he thought that Mariano had a full house. So Mariano tables his hand, 8-6, and obviously Airball looks at it and he thought it was a full house, but it wasn't a full house. And Airball mucked his hand. And you can see Torelli, he knew what was going on. He's like, what the fuck just happened here? This guy check raised with 8-6 and Airball just snap called and it was good. Somebody must have misread the board, and obviously it was Nick. Now, I don't believe that Mariano misread the board, even though he sort of said, was a 9 a straight? But something else happened here. Mariano actually gave Nick Airball his bet back at the end. And I did a video, I would say maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and I thought it was the most ridiculous thing I had ever seen, because I've always known Mariano to be a super classy guy, where there was a situation, and I'll link to it here in the video, where they got a multi-way all-in pre-flop, and Mariano had said, just run it once, and then the hands were revealed. Somebody had suggested running it more than once, and then Mariano said, okay, I'll run it more than once, and the keyboard chat comment warriors were like, oh, that's so shady, even though it's the biggest nothing burger in the world because the equities don't change. I did an entire video about that. But this is a situation that I've actually seen happen in the past as well. And obviously, you're not obligated to do anything, but this is about as clear-cut as it gets that obviously Nick Airball thought Mariano had a full house. Now, if you wanted to be totally cutthroat, first of all, you can do whatever you want, right? If you wanted to be totally cutthroat and you say, well, the opponents, it's up to them. If they can't read the board, like, I'm going to take the money, that's fine. No one's going to fault you for it. But I have seen situations, it hasn't happened to me, where I saw a situation at the bike happen maybe 5 or 10 years ago where a guy called like $1,000 all in, and he obviously misread the board. It had something to do with the 9 and the 6, and he was sitting in one of the corner seats. He called $1,000 all in at the end with like 9 high. And it was 100% obvious that he thought that he had trips. And it was a pro against this older guy. And the pro gave him his call back. And I thought that that was a really classy move. And I would have done the same thing. Like I said, you absolutely are not obligated to do anything like that. Now, Nick is not, I don't even know if he's a recreational player. I mean, he's been really, really killing the game. So some people have issues with him because they think he's loud and sometimes obnoxious. I don't have any issues with Nick. I think I probably would have done the same thing if I were Mariano specifically to Nick. The times I might not make this play is if I didn't like the guy, right? If he was a recreational player, or if I knew a pro probably wouldn't extend the same courtesy to me. Sometimes you know what I mean? Sometimes you know. But I think this is a classy move by Mariano. I really do. And again, it's fairly consistent with everything that I've seen him do and act at the table. And he's able to leverage the fact that he's got this great vlog to be able to get into these games. And I don't think he was thinking about it at the time. I mean, I think this was a gut. This was like a reflex decision, but it's probably a good business move too, to be friendly, to not be so cutthroat, and to continue to be invited into these games. But I hope to see you guys all on Monday, February 13th. I'll be doing this all-in podcast game, and I'll see you in the live chat, and I'll be playing hopefully on Tuesday night.